Welcome here.
Thank you very much.
These are 15 fabulous young South Africans, and they've come to listen to a real icon of South African history. My hero has always been Bram Fischer and Nelson Mandela, and this was the man closest to Nelson Mandela. His advisor, his friend, his confidant. We are very happy to have you in our midst. The struggle that they went through, we will never understand because we were not there. But they did it for all of you, and you have a bright future because of what they suffered. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Now I assume this is going to be a conversation between us. Yes. You're going to ask questions and I'm going to try and answer.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Victor. I just want to ask, sir, how did you... I can't believe that you had so much patience during the struggle. How did you adapt?
Well, you know, I experienced prison at the age of 17. So when I landed on Robben Island, I was quite familiar with what prison is. Of course, things were very different on Robben Island. If I may just take your time and describe just the first day that we landed on Robben Island. In our trial, in our court case, there were 8 of us. It's called the Rivonia trial. And our 8th colleague was white, Dennis Goldberg. So in apartheid South Africa, there's complete separation. You're born separately, you grow up separately, separate schools, you die separately, you go to separate graves. So Dennis Goldberg was not with us on Robben Island. He was kept with other white political prisoners in Pretoria. The 7 of us with Mr. Mandela and Walter Sisulu, Robben and Becky were suddenly woken up at night in Pretoria, handcuffed, leg irons, taken to the military airport where they took off the shackles, put us on the plane, and the next morning we landed on Robben Island on a very cold, rainy winter's morning. Of the 7 of us, I was 34 years old, but the youngest of the 7. Robben and Baker was 20 years older than myself, Walter Sisulu 18 years older than myself. I'm saying this deliberately. I'm also saying deliberately that I was the only Indian of the 7. And you'll see why I'm saying this deliberately. The first thing we had to do when we landed on Robben Island on that cold rainy day is to change into prison clothes. Now all my seniors, and among them were 4 of the most senior leaders of the ANC, Mandela, Sisulu, Mbeki, Mhlaba, and all older than I am. But because they were black, they had to wear short trousers. I was given long trousers. That's how apartheid applied. The whites on top, immediately on the whites is colors and Indians. At the bottom of the ladder were Africans or blacks in everything in South Africa. So I was given long trousers and my colleagues were given short trousers. The rationale behind short trousers is all Africans, sorry, regardless of age, were boys or girls. So you'd have little children talking of my garden boy, my kitchen girl, and boys of course wear short trousers. So what I'm saying is that regardless of your age, if you are black, you're a boy, and boys wear short trousers. So I'm given long trousers. So instinctively, one wants to reject that discrimination. Then came food. In the morning, soup, coffee, porridge. I got a little more sugar than Mandela, but less than Dennis Goldberg. But Dennis Goldberg is in Pretoria. I got a quarter loaf of bread every day. Mandela got bread for the first time after 10 years. So that's how apartheid applied in prison. But I might as well just tell you about this section where we were on Robben Island, about 25 of us who were completely separated from the rest of the prison community. So fortunately, among the 25 of us, about a dozen or more were either Indian or colored. So when things relaxed a bit, we could pool all our food together. So that in that section of the prison, we had the same food. But in the communal cells where there were hundreds and hundreds of prisoners, they could just do one-to-one. In our section it was different because there were so many of us who were either Indian or colored. Work, at first we were sitting on blocks of concrete with hammers and breaking big stones into gravel. That we did for only 6 months. Thereafter we were taken to the lime quarry where we worked with pick and shovels. No, none of
pictures in textbooks.
what?
Pictures in textbooks.
Pick and shovels.
Yeah.
Now we had never done pick and shovel work in our lives, so every day we had blisters and bleeding hands. But we get used to that. And the fact that we are outside our cells and out in the open was a boon for us, because inside we were staying in single cells, alone, and when you're locked up, you're not allowed to talk to anybody. It's only at work that we could work together in groups and talk. So after a few weeks, you get quite used to this hard work. Your bleeding and the blisters stop, and you really enjoy being outside instead of being locked up in the cells. So for 13 years we did that type of work at the lime quarry, and I must tell you immediately that it was not all uphill, because we had made it clear that we are not going to work according to how much they want us to work. We will work as much as we are able to work physically. So we are not going to accept any quotas. We made that very clear. Now the warders who worked with us, or the prison guards, had never worked with political prisoners in their lives. They had only worked with criminals, and when they met political prisoners, it was something else altogether for them, because we made it clear right from the start, we won't accept any vulgarity, we won't run when we are called, we'll just walk. We won't take up our caps all the time when we see a warder. So it didn't take us long to humanize these older warders, and they adapted quite well. But things changed dramatically when the younger warders came, not indoctrinated, straight from the Warders College to Robben Island, and it was completely different. We didn't have to teach them much, because they adapted quickly to prison conditions, to political prisoners. Just one other thing. In the first years, we were allowed to write and receive one letter every 6 months. There's 2 letters a year, and the letters had to be 500 words, incoming and outgoing. And you're not allowed to write anything about your fellow prisoners. Like I couldn't write about Mandela. If I write about that, they'll cut it out. And you're not allowed to write about anything that they consider to be political. that they considered to be political. So that's how censorship happened, and we didn't have newspapers for 16 years. But being political prisoners, we had to keep ourselves informed. That was our lifeblood. That was our food. So we did everything possible to keep ourselves informed. Bribe, blackmail, but we did everything to keep ourselves informed of what was happening outside. And we even smuggled a radio, but when the batteries went out, we couldn't get new batteries. But that was very useful for the time that the batteries lasted. Now violence, again I want to say, about 25 of us were completely separated from the rest of the prison committee. In other words, President Zuma, Deputy President Motlanthe, they were in the communal cells. They never saw us. They were there for 10 years. They never saw us. We never saw them. So complete was the isolation. And that's how we spent the 18 years. I'm only talking of our group. 18 years on the island, and then 5 of us were transferred to a prison in Cape Town called Portsmouth Prison. And that is where we spent the rest of our sentence of 26 years. We had a little competition with Madiba, who's going to be longest in prison. He beat us by 1 year. So he was 27 years and we were 26 years.
I would like you to please say something to us, to encourage us to believe in the systems of the country, that maybe in a few years to come, some of us will finally understand what it meant to be in the struggle.
Go and read Mandela's autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom.
Yeah.
He failed many times. He failed in his degree several times. But he persisted because he was determined. Failure is a human thing. Not everybody can say that we'll pass everything. Some human beings can't pass, at first shot, they fail. So Madiba failed several times, even in his degree. But he persisted. And that's an example. People who are a bit disheartened must always follow that. A lot of his studies he also did in jail. There are others who also studied in jail under severe hardship, under adverse conditions. They studied and succeeded. You folks are in a different position. You folks have got, I don't know which schools you belong to, but generally, if I can guess, you belong to proper schools with proper roofs and proper teachers and everything. So you've got everything you want from schools. So don't forget, play but study, because the country depends on you. As I repeat, the majority of the population in this country is young. And the country's future depends on you young people. And the young people must take advantage of every avenue. We want architects, we want scientists, we want aeronautic engineers, we want and those things are all open to you. So take advantage of that.